Prologue. The bond written in stars. In the beginning, there were two. One born of fire, the other of moonlight. Not master and servant, not leader and follower, but equals, bound not by law, but by love. So says the oldest tale ever whispered in the northern wind. Long before kingdoms were carved in stone and borders drawn in blood, the world was young, wild, and open, caught between two realms, the mortal plane and the other side, where spirit and shadow walked freely. To keep the balance, the gods created the seal of Eridana Gate that tethered the two worlds. And to guard it, they did not choose kings or lords. They chose two guardians, an Alpha with the strength of the earth and a soul forged in war, an Omega with the mind of the moon and magic burning in his veins. Together, they held the line. They were not bonded by hierarchy. They were bonded by choice. But time is cruel. The world forgot. The old myths turned into bedtime stories, the truth buried beneath fear and prejudice. Alphas became leaders by blood. Omegas were silenced by tradition, and the idea of equality between them faded into nothing more than heresy. Yet, the prophecy remained etched in stone deep beneath the mountains. When the seal weakens, when the night breathes shadow, when the gods fall silent, two shall rise again, the Alpha of flame and the Omega of moon, bound not by duty, but by devotion. And in their bond, the world shall be remade. For centuries, no such pair appeared, until now. In the heart of a frozen mountain range, an Alpha named Ares prepares for another battle, unaware that his greatest challenge will not be a sword or a beast, but a man. And across the valley, an Omega, named Kai, descendant of a nearly extinct bloodline, shrouded in myth and marked by the moon moves toward his fate. The seal has begun to crack, the darkness stirs, and the stars, after centuries of silence, begin to shift for two souls who were always meant to find each other. Chapter 1. The Scarred Alpha. The wind howled through the jagged peaks of the Irian Mountains, its song sharp and bitter. Snow swirled like ghosts in the twilight, dusting the worn boots of the lone figure who stood at the cliff's edge. Cloaked in black fur-lined armor, Ares stood unmoved by the cold, his amber eyes fixed on the valley below. There was blood on his gauntlet-old blood, not his own. Alpha Ares. A voice behind him cut through the silence. He turned slowly, his expression unreadable. A soldier in silver armor approached, hesitant. "The elders have summoned you," they say. "It's time." Ares exhaled, his breath a fog. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. The Irian hall smelled of old fire, stone, and war. Carvings of past alphas lined the towering walls, giants of history, men of might and command. Ares walked with heavy steps across the marble floor, the long scar over his brow catching the firelight as he entered the council chamber. 5 elders sat in a semicircle. At their center stood High Elder Bran, his beard white as frost. "You are the strongest alpha of your generation," Bran began. "And now, your duty begins. I've led countless battles. I've guarded the northern gate. What else remains?" Ares asked, his voice deep and unwavering. Bran's mouth twitched. "This mission is unlike any before. You will not go alone." Ares narrowed his eyes. "Then who?" The door creaked open. Boots padded in soft, silent, deliberate. Ares turned and froze. A man entered the chamber, neither hulking nor meek. Dressed in layered blue-gray robes that shimmered subtly like rippling water, he moved with a kind of quiet authority. His skin was moon-pale, and a braid of silver-white hair rested on his shoulder. Tribal tattoos curled down his exposed arms like ancient runes, but it was his eyes that struck Era Stormgrey, glowing faintly as if lit from within. "I am Kai," the newcomer said, voice smooth, eyes meeting Ares without a hint of deference. "Omega of the moon bloodline." Ares stiffened. "An Omega? He's not like others," Bran said. "He is the last of his kind. His strength rivals yours." Kai stepped forward, his stance proud. "I don't need to prove myself to you, Alpha, but I will prove myself Where it mattered sat the seal of Eridan. Ares felt the name coil around his thoughts like an ancient spell. "This is absurd," Ares growled. "An alpha doesn't follow an omega." "And yet," Bran said coolly, "you will fight beside one. The prophecy demands it." Later that night, as the two were shown to their shared quarters, Ares slammed his gauntlet down on the stone table. "I don't share space," he muttered. "Then take the floor," Kai replied, unbothered, as he removed his outer robe and sat cross-legged on the cot. Ares bristled. "You're cocky for an omega, and you're afraid of being challenged," Kai said, meeting his gaze. "Do you think your strength makes you superior? Power without purpose is just noise." Ares stepped forward, their faces inches apart. "You want to test me?" he said lowly. "No," Kai replied calmly. "But when the time comes, you'll need me. The world doesn't care if you're alpha or omega, it only cares if you bleed." For a long, taut moment, the room held its breath. Then Ares turned away with a grunt. "Don't slow me down." Kai's lips curved slightly. "Just try to keep up." Outside their chamber, the wind howled louder than before. Snow fell in silence, covering the land with its hush. The two warriors, so different, yet fated to walk the same path, would soon learn that the fate of their world depended not on hierarchy, but on harmony, and neither was ready for the bond that would be born between them. Chapter 2. The Legendary Omega. Dawn came to the Irian Mountains like a silent sentinel, casting rose-gold light across snow-laced ridges and sharp crags. In the training grounds behind the stronghold, frost still clung to the edges of the sparring ring as warriors stretched and trained in the morning chill. But today, all eyes were on two figures at its center. Ares stood shirtless, muscles coiled and ready, the early sun catching on the edge of his sword. Across from him stood Kai, dressed in sleeveless training robes, his silver braid falling over his shoulder like a ribbon of moonlight. The murmurs had already begun. An omega? Against him? Must be ceremonial, surely. The alpha won't go full force. But Ares wasn't holding back. "Attack," he said simply. Kai's eyes narrowed. "You sure?" Ares didn't answer. His sword sliced through the air in a flash. Kai dodged. No danced. He moved like water, weaving under the strike with supernatural precision. Before Ares could recover, Kai's heel connected with the alpha's side in a spinning kick that sent him skidding back across the frost-covered ground. The murmurs turned to stunned silence. Ares rose, wiping blood from the corner of his mouth, eyes burning. Again, their clash erupted like a storm metal ringing, bodies twisting, sparks flying from blade and bracer. Ares was power, brute, and unforgiving. But Kai was grace-honed into a weapon. Then, with a twist of his arm, Kai disarmed the alpha completely. Ares' blade skidded across the stone as Kai brought a short blade to his throat. He didn't press. He simply stared into Ares' eyes. "Still think I'm beneath you?" he asked. Ares didn't answer. His pride was silent, but his respect had begun to whisper. The first beast lunged. Kai met it mid-air with a twisting slash, his twin blades slicing through shadow as though cutting through silk. Ares followed, moving like a force of nature cleaving through another with brute strength. They fought back to back. Shadow poured in waves, and with each beast they struck down, more came. But then, something shifted. Kai's tattoos began to glow, first blue, then white-hot silver. From his palms, light flared, slicing the darkness. Ares turned, stunned, as Kai whispered something in the moonblood tongue. His body suspended briefly in mid-air as a pulse of light exploded from his chest. The beasts recoiled. The energy was burning them. "Get to the platform," Kai yelled. Ares leapt across broken stone, landing beside the central seal. "Now what?" "Trust me," Kai shouted. He joined Ares and grabbed his arm skin against skin, glowing mark to scarred flesh. As their energies met, the stone beneath them ignited with light. A shockwave blasted from the circle, sending the remaining shadow creatures screeching into smoke and ash. And then, all was still. They stood panting in the ruins, the ground beneath their feet humming like a heartbeat. Ares looked down at their still linked arms. The mark on Kai's hand had seared a faint shape onto his Skina-matching sigil. What is this? Kai looked up at him, breath ragged. A partial bond. The seal recognized us. You felt it too, didn't you? Ares nodded. I've never felt anything like it. Kai let go. We can't break it now. We're tied, until the mission ends, or until one of us falls. Ares' expression hardened. Then we don't fall. They looked around the ruined ring. The seal had held for now, but something darker had stirred. And it wouldn't stop until the bond was tested in blood and fire. In the trees beyond the ruins, something unseen watched them, and it smiled. Chapter 3. The Seal of Eridan. The path to the seal began with silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the charged stillness before a storm. Kai and Ares rode side by side through the evergreen forests of the lower valley. Their horses moved cautiously, hooves muffled on moss and wet leaves. Above, the moon hung low and pale, as if watching their journey with wary eyes. They had spoken little since their departure. What could be said between two souls bred for battle, both carrying legacies like weighted chains? Yet, silence had its own language, and Ares was beginning to understand the way Kai moved. How his gaze scanned the trees before they even rustled. How his fingers twitched before danger. Kai was more than a warrior. He was a warning. By midday, the ruins appeared. Shattered stones and overgrown columns peeked from the earth like broken bones. Moss-covered statues lined the outer circle, each one a figure of two guardians, one with a blade, the other with glowing tattoos. Alpha and Omega, side by side. Ares dismounted first, scanning the perimeter. Kai stepped beside him, already walking toward the center stone platform. "This is it," Kai murmured. "The outer gate of the seal." He knelt before the cracked stone in the middle, brushing off centuries of moss and dirt. Beneath it, ancient glyphs glimmered faintly in response to his touch. Ares stepped closer. "What does it say?" Kai didn't answer right away. His voice, when it came, was lower, almost reverent. "Two souls by fate aligned, guardian blood and guiding mind. Should shadow breach the sacred ring, the bond shall be the final king." Ares stared. "That's not just prophecy. That's a contract," Kai nodded. "Not everyone can access the seal. It requires balance, fury, and calm, fire and mind. Alpha and Omega, not one above the other, but equal." Ares exhaled slowly. "So what happens if only one stands?" Kai met his gaze. "Then the seal breaks, and the other realm spills through." A sudden cold passed through them. The air thickened, the trees hushed, and then a sound. Low, guttural, not animal, not man. Ares spun, drawing his blade. From the shadows between the ruins, they emerged, shifting black shapes with glowing red eyes, bodies like smoke wrapped in bones. "Shadow beasts," Kai hissed. They were faster than normal creatures, yet moved like nightmares, darting between trees with inhuman grace. The seal had weakened more than Kai feared. "Stay behind me," Ares said instinctively. But Kai stepped forward instead, both blades in hand. "I'm not the one who needs protection." The first beast lunged. Kai met it midair with a twisting slash, his twin blades slicing through shadow, as though cutting through silk. Ares followed, moving like a force of nature cleaving through another with brute strength. They fought back to back. Shadow poured in waves, and with each beast they struck down, more came. But then, something shifted. Kai's tattoos began to glow, first blue, then white-hot silver. From his palms, light flared, slicing the darkness. Ares turned, stunned, as Kai whispered something in the moonblood tongue. His body suspended briefly in mid-air as a pulse of light exploded from his chest. The beasts recoiled. The energy was burning them. "Get to the platform!" Kai yelled. Ares leapt across broken stone, landing beside the central seal. "Now what? Trust me!" Kai shouted. He joined Ares and grabbed his arm skin against skin, glowing mark to scarred flesh. As their energies met, the stone beneath them ignited with light. A shockwave blasted from the circle, sending the remaining shadow creatures screeching into smoke and ash. And then, all was still. They stood panting in the ruins, the ground beneath their feet humming like a heartbeat. Ares looked down at their still linked arms. The mark on Kai's hand had seared a faint shape onto his skeena, matching sigil. What? What is this? Kai looked up at him, breath ragged. A partial bond. The seal recognized us. You felt it too, didn't you? Ares nodded. I've never felt anything like it. Kai let go. We can't break it now. We're tied. Until the mission ends. Or until one of us falls. Ares' expression hardened. Then we don't fall. They looked around the ruined ring. The seal had held for now, but something darker had stirred. And it wouldn't stop until the bond was tested in blood and fire. In the trees beyond the ruins, something unseen watched them, and it smiled. Chapter 4. Beneath the Wolf Moon. The fire crackled gently in the heart of the cave, casting soft amber light on the stone walls, and the two figures huddled within. Outside, the storm raged wind howling through the cliffs, like a beast mourning the end of the world. Snow pelted the cave mouth, sealing them inside a world where only warmth, breath, and silence remained. Kai sat cross-legged near the fire, stripped to his undershirt, drying his soaked outer robes. Water glistened on his collarbone, trailing down to the moonblood tattoos that now pulsed faintly beneath his skin. Across the fire, Ares leaned back against the wall, his cloak draped over his shoulders. His gaze, though angled toward the flames, flicked every so often toward the Omega, not with caution, with fascination. Hours ago, they'd barely escaped a second ambush. The shadow beasts were becoming more aggressive, bolder with each passing night. During the fight, Ares had been wounded deep gashes along his side, where one of the beasts had raked him. He wouldn't admit it, of course, but Kai saw the stiffness in his movements, the way he clenched his jaw in pain. You're bleeding again, Kai said quietly. Ares glanced down at the red seeping through his shirt. It's nothing. Kai got up, walked over, and knelt beside him. Take it off. Ares raised an eyebrow. Excuse me? Kai's tone didn't waver. Your shirt. I need to treat it. For a moment, Ares hesitated. Then, wordlessly, he pulled the fabric over his head. Kai's hands were sure as he cleaned the wound with water and pressed a glowing palm over the torn flesh. Ares flinched at the warmth, not from pain, but from the feel of Kai's skin on his. You always this gentle with your enemies? Ares asked, his voice low. I don't consider you an enemy, Kai replied. Just a hard-headed alpha who doesn't know when to stop. Ares chuckled, then winced. You don't act like an Omega, he murmured. Kai looked up at him, eyes silver in the firelight. And you don't act like the others. You didn't let your pride get us killed. Their eyes locked, and for the first time, something passed between them that had nothing to do with duty. It was want. The fire popped softly. Kai stood, but instead of walking away, he extended his hand. Come sit closer. You're freezing. Ares took it. They settled together near the fire, shoulders barely touching. For a long time, neither spoke. Then Kai whispered, Do you feel it too? Ares turned. Feel what? This. Connection. Like we've always known each other. Ares' gaze dropped to Kai's lips, then back up to his eyes. I've never known anyone like you. Kai didn't look away. We're bonded now, not just by prophecy, but by choice. You may not realize it yet, but you've already started trusting me. Ares' voice softened. You're wrong. Kai blinked. Ares leaned closer, just enough for their breath to mingle. I knew I could trust you the moment you stood in that chamber and didn't flinch. Kai's breath caught. The space between them collapsed, their lips methesitant at first, testing the waters between Alpha and Omega, tradition and rebellion. But then the fire inside matched the one outside, and the kiss deepened. It wasn't a kiss of dominance or submission. It was a kiss of equals. Hands slid into hair. Hearts thundered. Ares' strong arms wrapped around Kai's waist, pulling him closer. Kai straddled his lap without breaking the kiss, fingers pressed to the scars on Ares' chest like they belonged there. When they finally pulled apart, breaths ragged and foreheads resting together, the storm outside had quieted. I wasn't expecting this, Ares murmured. Kai smiled faintly. Neither was I, but maybe we're what the seal was always meant to protect. Ares blinked. What do you mean? Not just the world, Kai said softly. But the bond between those who were never meant to belong yet found each other anyway. They lay together that night, tangled beneath cloaks and firelight. No titles, no roles, just two souls wrapped in each other beneath the light of the wolf moon. And outside, the world held its breath for what stirred beyond the veil would soon test their love in the deepest of ways. Chapter 5. The Bond Beyond Fate. The sky above the seal of Eridan churned with storm and shadow. The once hidden ruins were now a battleground of light and darkness as the veil between worlds thinned to threads. The final breach had begun. Ares and Kai stood at the center of the sacred circle, blades drawn, their bodies marked by exhaustion, blood, and glowing sigils. Behind them, the seal pulsed like a heart on the edge of breaking. Shadow beasts circled in the mist, dozens of them. But worse was the presence rising behind them, the Wraith King. A mass of smoke and ancient bones, its eyes hollow pits of hunger. It had waited centuries for the Guardians to fail, and now it had come to claim the world. We end this here, Kai said, voice steady. Ares looked at him, jaw clenched. The seal is too weak. We're outnumbered. Kai reached out and grasped Ares' hand. The prophecy doesn't say strength alone can stop this. It says the bond does. The mark between them, pulsata, perfect mirrored glyph, burned into their skin when they first touched the seal. Kai stepped closer, pressing his forehead against Ares's. We give everything. Together, not because we were chosen, but because we chose each other. Ares didn't speak. Instead, he pulled Kai into a kiss. Not a soft one this time, but fierce, raw, charged with everything unspoken. With every heartbeat, their connection deepened, fire spilling from the glyphs on their skin as if the bond itself awakened. They didn't stop when the wind howled louder. They didn't break when lightning split the sky. They kissed like the world was ending, because maybe it was. The intimate moment. In the quiet that followed the chaos, they found shelter once more, this time in the heart of the temple ruins, behind the last standing statue of the two original guardians. Moonlight streamed down, illuminating their faces in soft silver. Their armor was gone now, laid aside, like the burdens of rank and role. They undressed each other, not with urgency, but with reverence. Each piece removed, like a story peeled back, until nothing stood between them but breath and bare skin. Kai lay back first, guiding Ares to him, fingers brushing his cheek. No masks now, just us. Ares leaned over him, hands braced on either side, taking in the man beneath him not as an omega, not as a warrior, but as his. Their bodies met slowly, gently, like waves lapping at the shore. There was no rush, no proving, just connection. Whispers of names spoken in the quiet, fingers intertwined, lips tracing the curve of a collarbone. Gasps turned into moans, quiet and aching, as they moved in rhythm, chasing the edge of something greater than lust, something sacred. The glyphs on their skin blazed like stars, their souls aligned. When they reached the peak together, it wasn't just a climax of bodies. It was a bond sealed in truth. For a heartbeat, the world stilled. The final stand. They rose from the ruins like gods reborn, marked, not by fate, but by choice. Kai's body shimmered with silver flame, Ares cloaked in red fire. Together, they stepped into the circle, their joined hands glowing with the power of their bond. As the Wraith King descended, they struck not with blades, but with light. Their love became their weapon. Their bond became their shield. The seal pulsed one final time and then erupted. Light consumed the battlefield. The breach closed. The shadow screamed and then vanished. The world was saved. Ute. They stood there after, breathing hard, arms around each other, their foreheads pressed together once more. Ares whispered, "You were always the stronger one." Kai smiled. "No, we are strongest together." And the seal beneath them glowed in agreement. Epilogue. In the quiet that followed, the mountains were quiet now. Where once the sky roared with beasts and storms, There was only sunlight bathing the snowy peaks in gold. Birds returned to the trees. Grass grew where ash had fallen. And deep within the heart of the old temple ruins, peace had taken root. The seal of Eridan remained no longer pulsing in warning, but glowing with quiet light. Ares and Kai stayed in the valley for many days after the battle. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to. The world could wait. Here, they were just men, a new sanctuary. They had taken residence in a stone dwelling near the edge of the valley, where a stream whispered past their doorstep and deer often grazed just beyond the trees. It was a simple place: wood, stone, fire. No soldiers, no council, no prophecy. Just them. It was late evening now. Ares stood by the fireplace, shirtless, his long dark hair damp from the stream. He stoked the flame, adding another log. His body bore fading scars and the new, faint white glyph on his back. Kai's mark. Behind him, Kai emerged from the bathing room, wearing only a loose linen robe that clung to his form. His silver braid trailed over one shoulder. His skin shimmered faintly in the firelight. Ares turned. Their eyes met. Nothing was said. The intimate moment, Kai stepped into Ares' arms like he belonged there because he did. Ares buried his face in Kai's neck, breathing in his scent. "You smell like moonflowers." Kai chuckled softly. "You smell like firewood in battle." Their lips met, slow and unhurried. The world didn't need saving tonight. Hands explored, not out of hunger but familiarity. Every touch was known, memorized. The curve of Kai's waist, the roughness of Ares' calloused hands. Their bodies pressed together, warmth and heartbeat syncing like music. Kai gently pushed Ares toward the bed near the fire, where soft furs and thick blankets waited. They lay there face to face, bodies tangled under the flicker of flame. Kai kissed the scar over Ares' brow. "Does this still hurt?" "No," Ares murmured. "Not since you." He slid a hand under Kai's robe, fingers tracing lines down his back, pulling him closer. Kai straddled him gently, robes falling away like petals, revealing silver-touched skin. Ares let his hands roam freely, reverently, every touch worshipful. They made love in whispers and sighs, soft moans echoing in the warmth of their home. Not hurried, not frantic, just present. At one point, Ares whispered against Kai's skin, "I never believed in anything until you." Kai kissed his lips again and again until the words dissolved into breath. Later that night, wrapped in each other's arms, they lay under furs as the firelight faded to embers. Ares traced small circles on Kai's bare shoulder, while Kai rested his head on the alpha's chest, listening to the heartbeat he now called home. "Do you think the world will come for us again?" Ares asked quietly. Kai answered with a smile in his voice. "Let it. We've already won." Outside, the stars glittered above the quiet valley. The seal stood guarded, not by duty, but by love. The legend was true. But what the stories would never fully capture was how the world was saved, not just by warriors, but by two hearts that chose each other in a world that said they never could. The end.